So, topic for today is cranial cavity. Okay. Once the skull cap is removed, we see the three layers covering the brain. What are they? Dura matter, arachnoid matter, and pia. This dura matter is thrown into two folds, or it has two layers and those two layers are endosteal layer and meningeal layer. So dura, arachnoid, pia. Dura matter has two layers. What are those two layers? Endosteal layer and meningeal layer. What is endosteal layer? Suppose this is the skull. The endosteal layer, like periosteum, pericranium lines it from outside. Endosteal layer merges with the endocranium. It merges with the endocranium. Endosteal layer. The second layer, which is called as meningeal layer, is thrown into folds. So dura matter has two layers. Endosteal layer, which lines the inner surface of the skull molds, and meningeal layer, which is thrown into folds like this. Now when it is thrown into folds, the fold is not just like this, but it has a space above then below. In these spaces like this, there are dural venous sinuses. Inside these spaces are dural venous sinuses. We will discuss the location of the dural venous sinus, and this fold in the coronal section, what you are seeing, which lies between the two cerebral hemispheres, is called as falx cerebri. Falx cerebri. It's something like the packaging of the brain. You must be ordering things from Amazon. So when you order something of glass, so many packs are put. So similarly, brain, the specimens you see here is hardened by formalin. Otherwise, brain is quite slimy. Okay, it's not so hard. Okay, so it doesn't have that firm consistency. So therefore, to prevent shock absorption, so आप लोग क्या क्या करते रहते हैं? So the brain should not move too much. So therefore, that packaging is put. Falx cerebri here, separating the two cerebral hemispheres. Okay, so two cerebral. Then transverse. There is one more fold called as tentorium cerebelli, which separates the cerebrum from the cerebellum. And lower down, now this is falx cerebri. Lower down there is falx cerebelli, which separates the two cerebellar hemispheres. Okay, so we studied three layers of meningeal layer of dura matter. Falx cerebri separating the two cerebral hemispheres. Falx cerebelli separating the two cerebral hemispheres, and transverse cerebelli, tentorium cerebelli. Tentorium cerebelli separating cerebrum from cerebellum. So one 2 is tentorium cerebelli, and 3 is falx cerebelli, and 4 is diaphragma cellae, which covers the sella turcica. Diaphragma cellae. So there is one more diaphragm. We discussed oral diaphragm. So now we found one more diaphragm. What is that? Diaphragma cellae, which covers the sella turcica. Sella turcica, you know where the pituitary gland is. So pituitary gland pierces diaphragma cellae and goes inside. Okay? So understood? Now these are the various dural venous sinuses which drain the brain. Okay, which drain the brain. What layer is there inside the dura mater? Inside the dura mater, what layer will be there? Arachnoid. Okay. And between the dura and arachnoid, what space will be there? Now this arachnoid, what is there below the arachnoid? What matter? So what is there in this space? Subarachnoid space. What is there inside the subarachnoid space? Yes. So now this is arachnoid. This arachnoid goes like this into the dural venous sinuses. You are understanding? So this is arachnoid. It goes, and that is how CSF is drained into the dural venous sinus. यहाँ पे CSF है बराबर? Dura, arachnoid and pia, CSF. This is how CSF is drained into the dural venous sinus. Understood? But so much of CSF is produced, so it has to be drained. So it is drained into dural venous sinus. Okay. Now, one more concept. One side of the dural venous sinuses is lined by the endosteal layer. Agreed? And other side is lined by meningeal layer. Endosteal layer, meningeal layer. On the side there are some sinuses. The endosteal layer, meningeal layer. There are few sinuses which are entirely in the meningeal layer, and that we will discuss now. Now you are looking at the section of the skull from the side, and this is the falx cerebelli. Okay, suppose this is anterior, that is posterior side. Starting from here, exactly in the midline, there is a sinus called a superior sagittal sinus. Superior sagittal, in the sagittal section you are seeing it. It is at the upper border of the falx cerebri, and at the lower border of the falx cerebri there is another called as inferior sagittal sinus. Here superior sagittal sinus and inferior sagittal sinus. Now this point inside the skull is at the internal occipital protuberance. We are inside the skull. The superior sagittal sinus. Okay, now here is inferior sagittal sinus. This meets with great cerebral vein. This meets with great cerebral vein and forms another sinus called as straight sinus. Straight sinus. So this is superior sagittal sinus. This is inferior sagittal sinus. This is straight sinus. Now what has happened is superior sagittal sinus has come like this, and also straight sinus has come to this point. Superior sagittal sinus turns to the right. So here there is a confluence of sinuses. Confluence of sinus. Superior sagittal is meeting with straight sinus. And there are two transverse sinuses arising from here. What happens is straight sinus from the confluence turns to the left, and superior sagittal sinus from the confluence turns to the right. The superior sagittal sinus comes like this and turns to the right as right transverse sinus, and this straight becomes left transverse sinus. So where is the transverse sinus located? For that coronal section I had drawn, suppose this is the skull, the transverse sinus is located along the attachment of the tentorium cerebellum. Tentorium cerebellum. So where the tentorium cerebellum gets attached, there is transverse. Okay? So now, how many superior sagittal sinuses will be there? How many inferior? How many inferior also one? How many straight? How many transverse? So that's how we classify the sinuses, paired versus unpaired. So transverse sinus now on both the sides becomes sigmoid sinus. It becomes sigmoid sinus. Sigmoid sinus further continues down through the jugular foramen as internal jugular vein. Sigmoid sinus continues down as internal jugular vein. Okay? Just give me a second. Okay? So again, sigmoid sinuses will come under paired, transverse paired. You have seen the inside of the skull with petrous temporal bone. On the upper margin of the petrous temporal bone is superior petrosal sinus. Again paired. Okay? So concept of paired sinus and unpaired sinus is clear with you? Okay? So one more area of the hard part I want you to remember, or in the cut section, try to identify what is this now. Come on. In a coronal section, if I see something like this, what must be? Huh? Sphenoidal sinuses. Where are the sphenoidal sinuses? Below the sella turcica. Sella turcica, you remember sella turcica? It's exactly in the midline. So this is sella turcica. What is this? Pituitary gland. So what is this? Diaphragma cellae. Diaphragma cellae. Okay, I have taken a coronal section like this. So what is there on the sides? Here, middle cranial fossa. Dono side पे middle cranial fossa. If you go towards the midline of the middle cranial fossa, what is there? Sella turcica. Anybody has a specimen skull over here? When we look from the side, right, we see the sella turcica like this. Interior of skull is taught to you. Interior of skull. You know there is anterior cranial fossa, middle cranial fossa. The anterior cranial fossa is like this. interior of the skull, somehow it looks like this. Foramen magnum is here. This is petrous temporal part. So there are three fossae: posterior cranial fossa, middle cranial fossa, anterior cranial fossa. This is petrous temporal. And in this region is sella turcica. So here will be the diaphragma sellae and the hole for the pituitary gland to go inside. And below the pituitary will be sphenoidal air sinus. Sphenoidal air sinus. You may be thinking कि किधर इतना अंदर, very handful for or useful, handy for neurosurgeons. For them, directly through the nose they approach, they go to the sphenoidal air sinus and operate on the pituitary. Otherwise, pituitary to approach from here anywhere is so difficult. The entire brain substance is there in between. Okay? Now on the sides of both the sides of these, this sella turcica is an important venous sinus, and that is called as cavernous sinus. Cavernous sinus. Cavernous means cave. Cavernous means cave-like. So there are a lot of trabeculæ there. So as if you enter a cave which has not, people have not entered, so there is a lot of webs there. So you have to make way through that. So therefore this is called as cavernous sinus. There are two cavernous sinuses on each side of sella turcica. Okay? All of you have seen sella turcica, you know what is sella turcica? Okay. So I pause for a second. Okay? So after we remove the brain substance, this is anterior cranial fossa, middle cranial fossa from both the sides. Here is the cribriform plate. This is posterior cranial fossa. Here in the posterior cranial fossa is cerebellum. Here the temporal lobes of cerebrum, and here will be the frontal lobes of cerebrum. Frontal lobes of cerebrum are in anterior cranial fossa. Temporal are here, occipital are here, and the tentorium is attached to this petrous temporal bone. Okay, and below that is cerebellum. Below that is cerebellum. Another section I can draw for all of you. You can keep your mobiles away. In a sagittal section, this is tentorium, and the cerebrum is here like this. Okay, the cerebrum is here, and cerebellum is here, and in between is tentorium cerebellum. Okay. So why this cavernous sinus is important? There are very important contents in the lateral wall of the cavernous sinus, and they are the third cranial nerve, the fourth cranial nerve, ophthalmic nerve, and maxillary nerve. So 3, 4, 5, 1, 5, 2. 3, 4, 5, 1 and 5, 2. So that is in the lateral wall, and in the medial wall also. In the medial wall also there is very important structure, and that is internal carotid artery. Internal carotid artery. In the medial wall, internal carotid artery, and lateral to the internal carotid artery is the sixth cranial nerve. So in cavernous sinus, apart from the blood, venous blood, there are 3 cranial nerves and 2 parts of the 5th cranial nerve. So 3, 4, 6. So only part of the 5th cranial nerve which is not there is the mandibular nerve. Trigeminal nerve has 3 components: ophthalmic, maxillary and mandibular. So mandibular is not there here. So this is called as the contents or structures traversing the cavernous sinus. Structures traversing the cavernous sinus. So I had drawn this brainstem, the section of this skull where I said these are the anterior cranial fossae and this is foramen magnum and this is the petrous temporal bone. So location of the cavernous sinuses is here, right? And in between here is the sella turcica where the pituitary gland is there. These 2 cavernous sinuses are connected with each other by anteriorly and posteriorly called as intercavernous sinus. Anterior intercavernous sinus and posterior intercavernous sinus. The right and the left side cavernous sinuses are connected with each other. So again intercavernous sinuses become unpaired because there is anterior and posterior. While cavernous sinuses are come under paired sinus because there is a right cavernous and there is left cavernous sinus. Where are these nerves coming from? Now here this part will be covered by which? This part will be covered by which fold of the meningeal layer? Tentorium cerebellum, which shows a notch for the brainstem called as tentorium notch. Okay, so cerebrum will be here, here is brainstem, and below this will be cerebellum. From the brainstem, these nerves will arise. And these nerves, 3, 4, 6 have to go to the orbit. Orbit is somewhere here down. So therefore, these nerves pass through the cavernous sinus, then pass through the superior orbital fissure. You have heard of superior orbital fissure in organ frontalis. So they pass like this, 3, 4, 6. They come from the brainstem, pass through the cavernous sinus, then superior orbital fissure, and then they enter the orbit. Why they have to pass through the cavernous sinus? Because they have to go to the superior orbital fissure, which is the anterior relation of the cavernous sinus. Now let us study the relations of the cavernous sinus. Posteriorly is the apex of the petrous temporal bone. Anteriorly is superior sagittal sulcus. Sorry, I was saying sinus in between. Superior orbital fissure. Superior orbital fissure. Because of the superior sinus is superior orbital fissure. That is the anterior relation. What is posterior relation? Apex of the petrous temporal. What is the lateral relation? Temporal lobe. Temporal lobe. What is inferior relation? Foramen lacerum. Foramen lacerum is below this cavernous sinus. What is superior relation? Superior to the cavernous sinuses will be the optic chiasma which will be crossing. So optic chiasma superiorly, foramen lacerum inferiorly, superior orbital fissures anteriorly, apex of petrous temporal bone posteriorly. What is there medially? Hypophysis cerebri or the pituitary gland and sphenoidal air sinus, and laterally temporal lobe with uncus, especially uncus part of the temporal lobe. So the relations and structures traversing cavernous sinus is clear to all of you. What are the structures? Structures passing in lateral wall, structures passing in medial wall. Structure passing in lateral wall are 3, 4 and ophthalmic maxilla. In medial wall is internal carotid artery and So in case of head injury, sometimes the internal carotid artery may rupture into the cavernous sinus. So now what happens is the pressure of the cavernous sinus increases. The eye, veins of the eye, they drain into cavernous sinus. They cannot drain now because the internal carotid artery is opening into it. Okay? So now, therefore what happens is, the cavernous sinus literally, the pressure is so much that the eye becomes swollen because venous drainage is not happening, and the veins of the eye start pulsating with the internal carotid artery. That is called as pulsating exophthalmos. मतलब आपको पेशेंट का पल्स देखने के लिए you don't have to measure the pulse like this. You have to just look at the eye of the patient. One second, sir, मैं देखता हूँ. Okay. For the patient will be in lot of pain. That is called as pulsating exophthalmos when the internal carotid artery ruptures. Another thing, cavernous sinus thrombosis. Cavernous sinus thrombosis. If cavernous sinus gets infected, cavernous sinus drains this area, which is called as dangerous area of the face. That you have known. Why? Because this area drains into cavernous sinus. Now, in case of infection in this area, the cavernous sinus gets thrombosed. The cavernous sinus gets thrombosed or infected. 3, 4, 6, which are supplying the eyeball, are affected, and a person suffers from ophthalmoplegia. Because nerves are passing through cavernous sinus, which is now thrombosed. That is called as ophthalmoplegia. He is not able to move his eyes. I always thought this dangerous area of ऐसा थोड़ी होता है, cavernous sinus, thrombosis, then there is ophthalmoplegia, eyes, there is exophthalmos, because cavernous sinus is thrombosed, so eye का drainage is affected. मुझे लगता था ये सब ऐसा ही लिखा है. My own uncle, my father's first cousin, he had cough, cold, sinusitis, and he had fever. He called the doctor. Doctor said, okay, you take Crocin and sleep and see me tomorrow. And that night he didn't give antibiotics. And next day morning he got up with the exophthalmos. We took him to this Dinanath Mangeshkar Hospital, Pune. He was diagnosed with cavernous sinus thrombosis. First time I went to meet him, I saw the exophthalmos, and he suffered just with complication of sinusitis. Okay, these are rare things. We also get sinusitis under effect. Now, we cannot be always scared of this. Sinusitis हो गया तो cavernous sinus thrombosis. अभी these are things in the destiny. अभी हर बार मच्छर काटा तो मलेरिया होता है ऐसा नहीं है, डेंगू. But अभी वो we have to just live with it. Okay. So now with that background, okay. Before that, a short thing. यहाँ पे internal carotid है. Vertebral artery, how many parts were there? Internal carotid artery also has 4 parts. Cervical. After cervical part, it goes into. How does it enter the skull? Carotid canal. That part is called as petrous part. Okay? Cervical, no branches. You have to remember this. First part of the carotid, internal carotid, does not give any branch because it is meant to go inside the brain. Then petrous part. Third part is called as cavernous part. And fourth part is called as cerebral part or intracranial. Okay? Intracranial part. So no branches, no carotid canal lies in the petrous temporal bone. Therefore, it is called as petrous part. In the petrous part, it gives two branches. Sorry, I am throwing knowledge upon you. There are names of these branches called as carotico-tympanic branches. In this temporal bone, carotico-tympanic branches, in the temporal bone there is ear also. Temporal bone is there. So there are, for the tympanic membrane, for the middle ear, there are branches given called as carotico-tympanic. Branches given by carotid to the tympanic, carotico-tympanic. Okay. Next, there is an artery called as pterygoid, artery to the pterygoid canal. Okay, pterygoid canal. Have you heard of pterygoid canal in the skull? Cavernous part. So here is cavernous part. What is there on the medial side of the cavernous part? Hypophysis terminal. So it gives superior and inferior hypophyseal arteries. Superior and inferior hypophyseal arteries. These are the arteries which form the hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal system. So it gives hypophyseal arteries, cavernous part, and it gives arteries to the trigeminal ganglia. So basically, two branches in the petrous part, two branches in the cavernous part. And last is the cerebral part or the intracranial part. How many branches in the intracranial part? We have already studied the blood supply of the brain. Ophthalmic artery, anterior cerebral artery, middle cerebral artery, then posterior communicating artery and anterior choroidal artery, out of which anterior cerebral, middle cerebral, posterior communicating, they take part in formation of circle of Willis. So this is about the internal carotid. 5 branches from the fourth part, 2 branches from the third part, 2 branches from the second part, petrous part, and no branches from the cervical part. Cervical, petrous, cavernous, intracranial part. Okay. So what are the 5 branches of the internal carotid artery in the fourth part? Ophthalmic artery, then anterior cerebral, middle cerebral, posterior communicating and anterior choroidal. Out of which you have studied some branches of the ophthalmic. Supraorbital, supratrochlear. Right? They come here, they anastomose with superficial temporal. That's how internal and external carotid anastomosis happens. Okay. Now coming to the last part of the cavernous sinus. Last part of the cavernous sinus. Tributaries, draining channels and communications. Tributaries, draining channels and communications. There are 3 different things. Okay? There are some communications, there are some tributaries. What are the tributaries? Superior ophthalmic vein. So then, inferior ophthalmic vein, central vein of retina, central vein of retina, superior ophthalmic vein. So now you understand if cavernous sinus is damaged, superior ophthalmic vein cannot drain the eye, inferior ophthalmic vein, central vein. So therefore, cavernous sinus is very crucial. These eye veins, they drain inside. Okay. Then sphenoparietal sinus. Sphenoparietal sinus. It is also one of the paired sinuses. Sphenoparietal sinus. Superficial middle cerebral vein. Superficial middle cerebral vein. Okay. Inferior cerebral vein. Inferior cerebral vein. So these are our tributaries. Now cavernous sinus also has to drain it. Now blood it is receiving. It has to give that blood. So here there is transverse sinus. Transverse sinus becomes sigmoid. Sigmoid becomes transverse sinus becomes sigmoid. Sigmoid becomes internal jugular vein. Internal jugular vein comes out through the which foramen? So it drains into transverse sinus via superior petrosal sinus. So it drains. These are the draining sinus. It drains into transverse sinus via superior petrosal sinus. It drains into internal jugular vein via inferior petrosal sinus. Now you have already studied norma basalis. Barabar? So you have studied jugular foramen. You have studied jugular foramen. What are the structures passing through the jugular foramen? Posteriorly is internal jugular vein. Anteriorly is inferior petrosal sinus. And in between is 9, 10 and 11 cranial nerve. Now look at the jugular foramen. मैं अभी आपको ऑस्टियोलॉजी सिखा क्यों? क्योंकि मुझे भी आता है. In the jugular foramen, anterior most structure. Here you can understand it clearly. What is the anterior most structure in the jugular foramen? Inferior petrosal sinus. Because it is going towards the internal jugular vein to drain into it. What is the posterior most structure? Internal jugular vein. And what lie in between? 9, 10 and 11 cranial nerve. Now all of you can tell me the 5 structures passing through the jugular foramen. Anterior most is inferior petrosal sinus. Posterior most is internal jugular vein. And what lie in between? 9, 10 and 11 cranial. Is it clear to all of you? Stand up. Then go on. You don't answer. What are the structures passing through the jugular foramen? जोर से बाजू में फ्रंट ऑफ यू anterior most is inferior petrosal sinus, posterior most is internal jugular vein. And what lies in between? 9, 10 and 11 cranial. Now there are 3 hemispherical emissary veins, which drain into pterygoid plexus of veins. Pterygoid what you have heard, lateral pterygoid plate, pterygoid plexus of veins, pterygoid plexus. P is silent, P pterygoid plexus. Where is this pterygoid plexus? It is around the lateral pterygoid muscle. तो जब आप लोग आलस देते हो ना so that time the lateral pterygoid muscle pushes the blood. When the blood in the pterygoid plexus gets stagnated, people feel sleepy. So then they do like this, lateral pterygoid contracts, fresh blood comes there, person feels better. Okay? So this pterygoid plexus communicates with the cavernous sinus via 3 emissary veins. This is an open communication, both-way communication via foramen ovale, foramen lacerum, and emissary sphenoidal foramen. 3 foramen. Foramen ovale, foramen lacerum, and emissary sphenoidal foramen. Now all of you are understanding how difficult it is, what I am telling you, so many things. Now somebody put yourself in my shoes, that I have to speak 1 hour continuously on anatomy. Yeah. And I have to learn all these tributaries, all the training channels, all these 3 motor foramen also through which they are passing. Foramen ovale, foramen lacerum, and emissary sphenoidal foramen. Okay. Now, in this, now I am just talking, but this superior ophthalmic vein communicates with the veins of the face, angular. You remember this supraorbital, supratrochlear face, angular vein continues down as facial vein. So facial vein is going like this. This facial vein has a communication with the pterygoid plexus called as deep facial vein. Deep facial vein. It also has a communication with superior ophthalmic vein. So how is the facial vein, Divyansh, how is facial vein connected to the cavernous sinus? There are 2 ways by which the infection can pass. You know, one is infection from the dangerous area of face can pass via facial vein, superior ophthalmic vein, cavernous sinus. This is one way and commonest way. 2, facial vein, deep facial vein, pterygoid plexus, cavernous sinus. Can you repeat? 2 ways by which facial vein from the dangerous area, infection can pass from here to here. One is via superior ophthalmic vein, and second is via deep facial vein to pterygoid plexus, and from here. So this is how infection passes. The topic so although a heavy topic, it will be repeated for all of you, so don't do it.